Hello, Internet. Welcome to Nerd Sanctuary. This is Yami,
And Zato.
and we're doing another discussion vlog. I don't even know if these are going to get views yet or not. I have uploaded none of them so far.
Probably not.
We've only recorded one other on a different day.
Yeah.
This has all been like one thing.
Consistent.
One day. Also, I don't see how the Game Drums do this. Like,
It's their job. No, if this was my job, I had no problem doing it. But it's because, like, I know, like, it's not getting money. Getting money right now is not paying my bills. So, like,
they record for like 9 hours straight.
I could do that. Truthfully told.
They would need a break because my jaw would get sore.
Well, yeah, duh, but that's, again, it's like a job that you don't have to leave your own house.
And again, I'm not a musician like them, so I'm not used to, projecting for as long. So, this one is going to be a bit more thought involved.
This thing hurts.
Pitch an anime.
What?
Create an anime. Right now. And then, who would voice your character?
Pitch?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Create an anime.
Oh.
I'm sure you have some ideas.
I've actually had a lot of ideas. As a kid, I've had a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
Actually, with a friend of mine, we had a really big idea that's going on. I don't want it to get copyrighted because I don't want someone to take it, so I'm not going to really reveal it. Because it has a lot of potential.
Sound from my speaker here. That won't be a problem. Alright, so pitch the anime.
I have it. We already have one that we make. I just don't want it to be stolen. And it's not mine. Completely, it's his. But anyway, that I wanted to make, I know it's not going to get anywhere, so, like, if anyone else does it, whatever. I used to I used to write a lot of stories in high school, like dialogue stories. And one of my really, really big ones was, it was a default name, it's called a katana. And basically, there were these two main characters. It was going off of my big Kingdom Hearts phase. You had, like, Sora and Riku, so their names was Daisuke and Issa. They were both like, there's these katanas that are like yin and yang, basically, whatnot. And I guess you can also kind of reference My Hero into it too, because one was like it wasn't one for all and all for one, but one was just like one has the power to like create, and the other one is to destroy.
So it was like the yin and yang release from Naruto.
Somewhat, but a little bit more in depth when it comes to like the actual. It depends on the wielder of like how to an extent you can use it. But basically, Issa has a big past about him, much like Sasuke Uchiha or like Riku. It's past about him that he didn't know, and he found out that his father was a part of this this clan, not clan. It was called a blood. A pact or whatnot, and it was like basically a pact where like once you've given up your title as a wielder, you were basically banished or something like that. Not for other reasons but whatnot. But he was always under the impression that his father was always this sick, twisted person or whatnot. So, there. I can go on and on and on because I had the whole story, and it was like I actually have it in my car, like bits and pieces of the whole story. Yeah.
Also, I have like a whole story down too, but
I have it all. Like it's definitely it's super tattered. Like the all the pages are ripped, like the back of the pages are ripped. But as you can see, like from high school, everything was written down. Like I just wrote. It was just every day on study hall. I always made 2 chapters. Like it was 2 chapters a day, and
for me and my friends, it was like some recess game we played for a while.
So,
and like, I have notebooks and everything filled with like designs and stuff like that.
I
have little bits of like an official try at the story on my laptop. But mine is
I had at least 4 to 5 notebooks worth of this story, and then I also even transferred over to the computer because I wanted to start typing it because I actually wanted my English teacher to like grade like how well this book was. She said it was really good for what it was, just being dialogue. And I was like, oh man, maybe I'll publish it. But I lost interest in doing it because I didn't really have the free time, and jobs actually became relevant. And I was like, well, I don't have time to do this anymore. I'm too tired to write. But
I was too lazy to write.
Me and my other friend, we also had. I'm also a story. Like I like stories. Me and my one friend, we were dedicated. Actually, pretty sure I can pull it up on my phone. We were working up on this one story, and it was going somewhere. It still could go somewhere. if I were to like get back into writing it. But it was called Orion, and what Orion was that there was these 3 kingdoms, 3 nations, Azure, Verde. Basically, they're like colors of the Japanese, Spanish colors.
Another word for blue, the Spanish
Yeah.
word for green.
And then the other one for yellow. But it wasn't amarillo. We actually called it something else. But anywho, you had the main character whose name was Vash.
Bash.
Vash and his little brother. I forgot what his little brother was. I think it was like Titus or something like that. But never mind. They were the get a stupid last name because we came up with this last name from playing BlazBlue. It was like they were the Vermilion brothers.
Man, with mine, we just used our real names for it because we didn't think I'd actually we knew it wasn't going to go anywhere.
This would have went somewhere. The story was basically everyone. Again, this is actually kind of My Hero Academia.
Well, me and my friends were also like trying to make a card game that we thought would actually go somewhere.
Mm.
So our stupid little like story playground game, we didn't put too much thought into it. We just something to distract us at recess.
This one we made it. And I guess you can also say it was before My Hero was even a big thing or we even knew about it because we made this years ago. I was still in high school at the time we made this, but basically everyone was born with a nature, and
A nature.
Yeah, a different type of a nature type. Everyone you had a primary and a secondary nature type, and
So is this like quirks or more like being a
like
bender?
quirks, but every quirk is the same for the most part. So like you either have a physical nature, a psychological nature.
Is sort of like the different quirk types where like there's emitter, transformation, and mutation?
Somewhat like we basically it's like some people have the ability to talk to animals or control animals, but through different types of training you can elevate it. And that goes through like your physical like chakras within your body. And they're not called chakras, but like the more you train your body and your mind and soul and whatnot, you can like manifest your nature to make it a little better. So like you can go from talking to beasts to actually like controlling beasts yourself or like doing all sorts of different things. Like the main character, and you also have the one. There's always one person in every generation that is born. They're called like a guardian or like the chosen or whatnot, and they have like the ability. They can use any nature.
That reminds me of Nen abilities from Hunter x Hunter.
Oh, really?
Have you seen Hunter x Hunter?
Yeah, I've seen Hunter.
It reminded me a lot of the Nen abilities, with that last one being like the specialist, where you can like use any of the other types, like emitter.
And there's no side effect. Like obviously, and not everyone like you can only use. If you're born with a nature, you can only use that nature. Your primary, your secondary. If you try to use a nature that's out of your typing or whatever you were born with, it actually has negative effects on your body. You can't do it. Like it's whatnot. It's whatnot. Only a guardian could. And how we had this, there's this test where like you hold this. They would like cut a slit into your hand. You had this ball of clay, and depending on what color the clay turned, ranging from like blue, like the primary colors, and had blends of it. It tells you what your nature is, whether it's a blend of a certain nature or just strictly this nature or whatnot. And if it turns like if it just remains neutral, if it's gray or whatnot or white symbolizing all of the colors and whatnot, you were a guardian, not chosen. But anyway, the character whose name was Bash ended up being one of the characters that were chosen. But what we did was a twist of it because that's how we do it. We decided to kill him off in one of the stories. Like he wasn't really the main character, like the story.
And then the Fire Nation attacked.
Shut up. It wasn't really like we have a lot of stories. One story that I was making, I actually made this 2 years ago. While I was working at my factory job. I was talking to my friend about it, and I was like, I want you to really look over and think it'll go somewhere. Now, this one, I was into dragons, okay? So basically, you have, like, yourself, and then you have your, like, chibi spirit dragon or something like that. That's right here. And they're from two the dragons from different astral being. Every dragon was named by, like, actual Japanese legends. Like, you had, like, the...
like Leviathan and shit like that?
Somewhat. Leviathan, you had Fujin, you had Takami Katsuchi, you had all these different like lightning, wind, fire, different like types of dragons and whatnot. And there was this is where I guess it kind of derived from Bakugan a little bit. Was like you have like the fire god. There's a fire one that has a twin. There's Fujin and Raijin. Okay, if you know anything about Fujin and Raijin, they're like the wind god and the thunder god. They're like twins and whatnot. And
It's like a Shinto, right?
yeah, just a Shinto thing. So the main character had Raijin as his dragon, and Raijin was just like when the power of thunder was transferred over to him and whatnot. He ended up becoming like he had to take this test and whatnot. There's always a test to sit there and try to be Raijin's mate or like wielder or basically chosen one, and the chosen person had to do the test was defeat Raijin or defeat him like in a battle of wits or something like that. And Raijin was just too good. Raijin basically almost to the point where he almost killed them. He killed the chosen, and that was kind of what stopped Raijin from even getting a wielder, because you're not supposed to do that. You know, you're supposed to be in sync with your chosen. If you sit there and try to prove it by killing them, what is that doing or whatnot? He was like, well, I'm not going to be chosen. Like, I'm not going to be controlled by someone worthless or whatnot.
Yeah, like a weird eye twitch right now.
I wish I could bring that up. I actually wrote that in the book too. I wrote a lot of stories, and there's a lot of things that could be transitioned to anime and whatnot. It was super anime related, and I was really. Actually, still now to this day, I'm very entitled to the story. It's just that I wanted to really go off for this story. I kind of wanted to really base it off of real, like, I guess it's Japanese stuff. Like, if it's going to be Shinto, like if I'm going to use like Naruto, for instance, there's a difference. Like, they don't just throw in like a Amaterasu or Tsukiyomi or like something. They actually go into the background of what they actually really mean. So I wanted to.
It's pretty cool. Like all the Uchiha like Sharingan techniques involve like those.
The moon, like phases of the moon.
Like Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi, which in Shinto mythology were brother and sister, or along with Susanoo, with their parents being Izanami and Izanagi.
Yeah, that's how I wanted my dragons in my show in my book to be about, and I'm still really invested into it. I just wanted to make sure like it's still relevant. Like a part of it was like I said, I wanted to be a mixture of like Bakugan with like fairy tale ish, and then like a little bit of which ones have like Digimon, the Frontier, because I was really big in Frontier, so I wanted to have like your spirit. This is your spirit, and like the only way to communicate with it, you can go into the astral plane version of the place. But if they want to come to the real world, you had like this vice or like this badge was basically like the being was inside of that. And whatnot.
This story is very similar to one I actually made up.
Really?
But, we'll get onto that in a little bit. Like you spent 12 minutes.
I know, because I'm really I actually like this topic.
Alright, you're
go ahead.
Like Fujin Raijin.
Go ahead.
Give me some voice actors who you would imagine for that.
Definitely the voice actor for Natsu would be the main character of mine. And for Edward Elric,
Todd Haberkorn and Vic Mignogna.
Vic Mignogna, he was going to be the brother. If we're going to talk, he's going to be the voice of of Vash, and the brother of Vash and whatnot. And Yuri Lowenthal is going to be my villain.
Todd Haberkorn is actually a pretty cool dude. I met him.
Yeah.
I showed you the book that I had signed. He is a cool dude. Sounds exactly like Natsu in real life.
Yuri Lowenthal is going to be the villain of my story, be part of the antagonist and whatnot. That ended up, turning into like not good, but he was like a vigilante kind of thing. I really want to start my story again. I'm talking about it.
I know.
But go ahead. What did you? You've told me about a couple stories that you sat there and wrote, but
I probably told you about this one then, because this is like the main one.
Because I think I remember telling you about it, and you was like, "Oh man, that sounds very similar to a story."
Pretty much, nightmarish shadow creatures start leaking into our world, and like that awakens like magical beasts that have been sealed for 1,000 years, like a dragon, a phoenix. And like
you told me bits and pieces.
And like they bond with humans that have like a compatible like biorhythm to them. But
yeah, we did.
The beasts don't actually manifest. It's just like a costume change to like a superhero type thing. And like it starts out being like pretty lighthearted, but as things happen, people die. We see this character gradually get darker and like more depressed. Like a lot of anime, they show like the hero maintain the same emotional state all the way through. Like nothing really gets to Natsu, where Natsu's always carefree. Bless you. You're having a sneezy day today. But then we got characters like, what is it, Yuchi, whatever, from Seraph of the End. People are gonna hate me for not remembering his name.
Yurichio?
Yeah. Him and Aaron Yater, who are like always in hate mode.
I hate the vampires.
And
kill them.
Sasuke, who's always in like his darkness, like deep darkness. But I wanted to do something that started out light because, you know, and then all the stuff that happens while being a hero, all the loss and suffering he's forced to endure, gradually make him darker while still staying on that heroic path. But for voice actors, like, I can't really imagine a lot of them because a lot of the characters were my friends who also played the game.
Also, Tara Strong was going to be my character's girlfriend's character. So
that's a good voice actor. But
just to throw that out there.
I know I kind of don't want to keep using the same voice actors, but the main character would be the one with the dragon power, who would eventually like develop into lightning powers, and be like one of only 3 people in the world who have ever developed lightning. It is like a super rare ability type.
See, you know, that actually melts into my story because my story was going to be. Yeah. I hate it. You know why? Actually, why I was talking about that card game that we had.
I kind of created this story like 13 years ago.
Man, the reason why I was talking about my story was called Dragoborn, like Dragonborn or Dracoborn or something like that. The one I was talking about, because like they're all dragons, and as like you there's different stages within like the synchronization you can do with your dragon. So like if you were to like your first synchronization was like you'll have like it's always random. Like you either have like your arm of like a dragon or like the tail or like the air like whatnot, and as you like complete like as the synergy between you and your spirit dragon develop, you become more of like that human dragon type and whatnot.
We really did kind of create the same thing, didn't we?
It was so cool. Like, basically, and everyone always had the eyes. Like, they always had at least one eye. Every time they did the synergy, it was like the eye and whatever body part and whatnot.
And anytime someone changes their eyes in an anime, it's super bad.
I even had an opening for it. Like, to this day, because this Japanese song was not claimed by any show. And yeah, I have like I'll show you after the video. Like, I have an opening claim for this. I even had like my friend, if he can actually, I gotta get in contact with him because I asked him about it, and he said that he would make an opening for me, like based off of if I can just give him more. Yeah. So I was like, I want to see if he did that, truthfully. But he made make an opening for me. I sent him like character details and like details of what the character was like, and he would draw them out. And I'm like, oh, that looks pretty cool. Like, you know, that's pretty close to what I was thinking. And he would like make little animations over it or whatnot. So.
Yeah, when I first started this video, I thought like it was gonna throw you off.
No,
it was gonna take you off, but you jumped right in.
Yeah, I love story writing, bro.
Like 2 of the main characters, which are based off me and a friend. One of us has dragon powers, the other phoenix powers. And honestly, like I kind of plan on doing the Spider-Man thing, where it's like a duality between the person as a human, like doing school stuff, and their hero identity. So I wanted a voice actor who could do both, like the innocent, like everyday thing, and also the like a distinction, so that people won't be like, "Hey, this guy sounds like this other guy." So for my character, I'd want Yuri Lowenthal.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He has good range because he's the older Ben 10 in the Ben 10 series, where he still had like innocent, like goofy voice, like his Haru Glory Rave Master voice.
Actually, one of the masters for Dracoborn, one of the masters was going to be Gaara's voice actor because of how like ancient and how like strict and stern he is. It was like another character. Now he was like a comic relief type character. He was just funny and a joke. Like, and then his dragon was even worse. Like they were just like that. Like they joked around too much, and actually they ended up getting killed off in my story. Which is supposed to be like a very big pivotal thing. If you ever watch Bakugan, it would have been like what was his name? The Aqua one.
The little guy, the Marucho.
There's Marucho and his
partner Preus.
Yeah, they were like, it was basically they had that Preus Marucho type bond, but they were just too funny. Whatnot. They joked around too much, but they were serious about when they got to a battle. It only happened every time when they synergized. Their complete personality. Their personality just changed into like strict, get this battle done mode, and then like.
Not just someone steals our ideas, but mainly yours.
Yeah.
Because I haven't said too much of mine.
I mean, this one's getting to you.
This is
the one that I kind of gave up on. Because I was like, I didn't have nowhere to go with it.
This whole topic is like well, I'd say try and mix some elements of your stories into one.
I wanted to like I was gonna mix the Orion one because I was like, but that's again the reason the Orion one was a conjoined idea between me and my friend. So if Vasily wants to give up the idea, I said I could definitely melt this kingdom thing into my Dracoborn thing because what was going on was that eventually in different seasons there's going to be different astral planes and worlds that can be going into. It was so in depth.
I haven't gotten to say too much of my story. It was like the 20 minutes we've been recording.
Because I've been speaking.
But like I was saying, evil creatures spread into the world, awakened dragons, phoenixes. And the thing is, like, those two beasts, they're the only of those kind that still exist. Like, the rest of the dragons and phoenixes got wiped out.
Are those what is a dragon's actual, like, not arch nemesis, but what would be its counterpart?
Oh, dragons are often, like, put against phoenixes.
Is it?
Because dragons are like a powerhouse, while phoenixes have that whole immortal
rebirth and whatnot? Yeah. Okay. So I was always, because when I was coming into making stories, especially if they're about dragons, I never wanted to make it against like a human or whatnot. I always want it to be something that is actually like an equivalent to a dragon, if that's going to be the actual...
Remember I was telling you about those nightmare creatures in my story?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the first arc would have the hero, like, and these nightmare creatures, they are humanoid shapes, but each one correlates to a human that exists, being like their darkness from another world. Mm-hmm. So the first season would have the guy fight these like little bosses, as well as having like a Sonic the Hedgehog versus Shadow the Hedgehog thing with the Phoenix person. But the main boss would eventually show up being like the nightmare version of the dragon person, and completely wipe the floor with him, like showing like a distinction, like your darkness is stronger than your light.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and with the two people with the dragon powers, and it turns out that they're actually like the same being, but they were split. And the only way to like reach your ultimate power is to combine, which won't even happen until many seasons/years in the series. But definitely Yuri Lowenthal for like, we'll get the Haru Glory voice for his regular human side, and the Sasuke Uchiha voice for his hero side. I'm gonna say Johnny Yon Bosch for.
I could not imagine an Ichigo sounding
Phoenix
character.
Guy. Phoenix guy.
I couldn't imagine.
Just because he's supposed to have like that dark or Shadow the Hedgehog like vibe to him.
Surprisingly, I don't know why I like this voice actor's voice, or just maybe the voice of the character, because I always wanted him to be like a maniacal villain in my show. But if you've ever played like any of the Sonic games, and the ones with Jet the Hawk or whatnot, and his voice actor, I've always liked like he was just like he had that voice. It was just like I can't even like mimic it, but it was just it wasn't raspy, but it was just more like, what's wrong, Sonic? Like it was just something stupid. Rather than I would be like one of those antagonists that is an antagonist but isn't really like the bad, like Jack Splicer from Shaolin Showdown. Like he was an antagonist, but he wasn't really like the main bad guy. He had his moments. Like
he was like Wuya's henchman.
Yeah,
or something.
But the real big one was like Wuya and like this alligator guy,
Jake Young or something
like that.
Yeah, so I remember the last name was Young.
So like I've had any voice actor would be whoever did Jet the Hawk for Sonic.
Maybe Dante Bosco for the Phoenix guy. Zuko from Avatar.
That's not a bad choice.
Well, I am going to say Dan Green for the Shadow Dragon guy. Because I feel the Yami Yugi voice would be perfect.
I love this thing.
And that is not just... The Dual Disc thing was completely a separate
thing.
I
know, right?
Actually, talking about Sonic got me thinking about Dan Green, because he was also Knuckles in the Sonic X anime.
Was he?
Yeah. Yeah. He was also in the Chaotix TV show. Have you ever seen that?
I've never seen that.
No. Super cool show. The animation, like...
Oh, Chaotix with the X?
No.
Chaotix?
No, Chaotic. It was like that card game show.
Yeah, I thought it was called Chaotix.
No.
Because I remember there was like a boy and a girl. It was like they had... One episode I do remember was it was like on top of this rocky shrine type area, and there was like water surrounding, and they had like
where you like press a button and you like transport.
I thought it was called Chaotix.
Yeah.
I'm looking all like that.
And the main character's name was Tom. But if you ever seen the Lion character, that was also Dan Green.
What?
Yeah. But Dan Green would be a amazing villain. And I don't know who voiced Urahara from Bleach. He's like the one voice actor I don't know his real name. But he'd definitely be the teacher character that shows up at like season 3 to actually teach the dragon person to use his lightning powers.
Oh, I was thinking of Sonic again.
Team Chaotix.
Yeah, that's chaotic.
Yeah, that is the show.
I was thinking of Team Chaotix.
Oh, from Sonic.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. I got like a million story ideas of like.
My mind always think like. Honestly, if there's one thing that I know I can dedicate myself time to, it's just if I had like. What stops me is that like, I don't have like. If I had someone who like a partner or like anyone else that would like and drive me into like making a story or whatnot, I have all these ideas, but I don't have a concrete set of like a foundation as to where they would go and whatnot. Like. I really truly believe like the Katana one and the Orion and the Draco, especially Dracoborn, could go somewhere. But it's just like I don't know. I'm not trying to make it too anime.
The only thing stopping me is I'm only writing dialogue,
and that's all I ever wrote. Was there's nothing but like dialogue. It will be dialogue after dialogue. But then like
I want it to be like a comic book / manga setup.
Just that when I actually go through it, and this is what kind of discouraged me a little bit more too, is that. With all the dialogue, how long it takes to write dialogue, and then actually reading through it afterwards, I'm like, this is like 5 minutes worth of something. And I was like, oh.
I definitely want to do what a lot of anime don't do. I want like great emotional development and an amazing story.
Right, and I want to kill off my characters. I think any show that where you kill off a main character, or like give a sense to where like the main character isn't like the pivotal thing is
he wants to Akame ga Kill.
Yeah, well, no. I would, but Akame got killed. Yeah, not like that, not that catastrophic, but basically like an anime character, like one of the main character, like if they lost due to like being like too prideful in like what they can do and their abilities, like that it actually costs them and whatnot. So I'm gonna ask for different. And that's why my books or the books I was gonna write will always be broken up into like trilogies, like not just like one set story. Like there's a different for Orion, for every 3 kingdom, there was a different trilogy basing off of each kingdom. So you wouldn't think, oh, you know, obviously like say with Naruto, you always thought that like the Leaf Village was like the best village, but then if they were like say like you went from like a story going off the Cloud Village or going off of this, you get like a more better understanding from like the Cloud Village's point of view than just the Leaf Village's point of view. And that's what I kind of thought Naruto failed at. It's just like, why you implement all these villages and you make the Leaf, because then every character that was pivotal in the war were all Leaf. And I'm like, the Leaf isn't the only one full of these characters and whatnot. Like the 4 Kage. Oh man, there's those the 4 Hokage. What about the 4 Mizukages? The 4 Tsuchikages and whatnot.
I have a big problem like writing my story because I want to start it. I want to write it in chronological order. But halfway through writing, I'll be like, you know what? I want to do instead. I want to write this storyline I've had in my head for a while that takes place 3 years later.
And that's what I like. No, I like to do time skips. I like to make things like to where like you don't know where the story is going.
But I'm not talking time skips. I'm talking about I just wanted to write something that I already
had in your head.
I want to jump ahead.
I do that, but I'll have it jot down, and then I'll try to correlate eventually. As I go back, I'll try to make sure it correlates to it. But like the beginning of my one story, Katana started 7 years after this war, that like this clash between Daisuke and Aisa and whatnot. And all you saw was like, actually, it cracked me up because when I saw Boruto, it was just like the Boruto first scene and whatnot, where basically it was just like, you know what, we don't have to do this and whatnot. The world was just like the place they were at was basically tattered. Their katanas were like in these different astral forms, and they went to clash, and all of a sudden they went back to them as childhood students in the academy and whatnot. And I was like, oh. Yeah. So I love time skips like that, where it's just like, oh, I can't wait to see that. Like I'm really waiting to like
the biggest time skip I ever do in my story is a span of like 2 years. It's very like Naruto to Naruto Shippuden.
We'll see. Alright, well, we were at that 29:55.
Yeah, we have talked for 30 minutes about mainly his stories.
Yeah, but I love
What
storytelling.
yes.
It's what.
Maybe you can like start working on finishing.
I would if
our
you
stories.
actually if I can get back into Draco Born. I think it's just if it's because it actually does kind of correlate with your story a little bit with the whole like synergy type thing and like the negative energy and whatnot.
Maybe it becomes super successful. We do like a crossover 8 years down the line.
Look at that Draco Cross. What did you call your story?
I didn't have a name.
I was so big into naming my story before. I said, if I can't give a basic name for the story, I'm not writing it.
My names are like super uninspired. I named one character mainly because like the first thing, like the first like iteration of him was a Flash ripoff.
Oh my god.
But that's a story for my therapist.
My character's name is Ryota.
Well, at the time I started the story, I wasn't a super weeb like you.
No, it wasn't even a wait. This is good. Again, this was going off of like actual names going off of like if you're a wielder of Raijin was like it had to be like it was Raijin and Ryota.
Had to have like the character for lightning in its name or something.
Something like Rai something or whatnot. Or it didn't have to. And then I was like, that's too Like if I'm gonna make Fuji, it's not gonna make like Fujiyama or something like that.
I still never even went around to naming the dragon partner for the main character. I have simply been calling him Ryu, the Japanese word for dragon.
Like the dragons that acted in my story actually had a name, but they were always going off of their titles, like Raijin, but his name was like really like it was kind of like whatever the dragon-esque names.
For a while, it was the dragon had memory loss, and then after all, I'm like, is the name really that important anymore? I mean, whatever. But
The Joker.
Thank you all for letting us babble for 32 minutes.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Don't break my list.
It's not broken.
But if you liked what you see, which I can't imagine you did,
Probably not. I mean,
like, comment, subscribe. Tell your childhood like superhero stories or whatever. Till next time, this has been Yami.
and Zato.
See you later.
See you guys.